and welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, an economist by training, an international economist with more than 40 years in the industry as a predictor of futures, as well as what we're dealing with right now, which is unprecedented. I am going to be doing something very, very different over these next weeks. In fact, this next month, I've got 4 shows that I'm doing specifically to address what is happening out here. And no, you're not crazy. You're not crazy. This is really, really, really happening. Let me give you some background and some history. For those of you that have watched my show over the many, many years, it has broadcast on public access television through DATV, headquartered in Dayton, Ohio, one of the pioneers in commercial-free public information. Phenomenal, phenomenal staff, phenomenal people, phenomenal history. I'm honored and blessed to be here. I mean it. They support me, they encourage me, and I can be a little bit controversial on some of the things I've talked about because they needed to be talked about. And because of this, I am going to be doing what I'm doing right now for 4 segments that will be broadcast not only through the DATV family, which is phenomenal, by the way, but it'll also be broadcast internationally in approximately 100 other countries. Yeah, all this information. Why? Because whether you believe it or not, we are in a major, major shift. Never, ever, ever, and as an economic researcher, have I seen anything so utterly terrifying. And I don't mean to get you in a frenzy because this is why I do the show. The purpose of doing the show is to give you the necessary information, resources, people that can help you to navigate the days that we're in. And believe me, if you think I'm kidding, the show re-airs on YouTube. You can go to thepowerofmoney.com with Michelle Graves, and you will see all of this information, plus a whole lot more, because I've been talking about money, I've been talking about systems, capitalism, socialism, communism, not from some kind of a sensationalist perspective, but I've been talking about it so that you may have an understanding of what these systems can and will do to you and your family. Because at the end of the day, viewers, listen to me carefully. I started doing this show when I was a young woman, but I'm here to tell you I'm in my 70s and moving right along, and I can guarantee you that the things that are happening today, they didn't tell us about. We were not prepared. We actually were holding on to so many false assumptions, expectations, poor information, restricted information, or just straight out no information. And we were supposed to navigate through this mess and raise normal, healthy, children, maintain balanced relationships, be able to save a little money, put a little money aside, get a little house, car, maybe 2, maybe take a vacation. I mean, this is what we were taught. And this is how we ordered our lives, so many of us, when we were younger. Boy, was not that a big fat lie. Nobody could have told us that when you got my age, if you even made it, okay, if you even made it, I say this because my class reunions at Walnut Hills High School are getting thinner and thinner and thinner. and started getting thin about 20 years ago. People just started dying of cancer, everything. And we actually thought and believed so much in our leadership in our country and the technology and the smarts that, we were Americans and we were banging. And a lie. Because right when you thought you got it, you were gone. The only people that benefited from all your sacrifices were your children and grandchildren, most likely. But I'm saying all of this today because I wrote this book 2 years ago. Yeah, I did. The Money Lady. I compiled all of my years of insight and experience into a book because I saw something coming that other people didn't seem to see. And I was beginning to think I was a character actor in the Outer Limits, that sci-fi or Rod Sterling's sci-fi stuff. I was beginning to feel really weird. And I'm saying this because if you are a trained professional, meaning you're not pulled in by opinions, you're not moved by people's thoughts, you look for research, you look for data, you go back historically and look at kingdoms and nations, and what did they have in common, and what was their common theme, and how did it parallel what's happening in our country. 2 years ago, I had an epiphany, and this book was a working class guide to surviving the Trump economy. Okay? A working class guide to surviving. I wasn't even talking about, oh my God. I was just trying to get it out of myself because this was so weird. And we had a guy in office that was doing things that were so, in my estimation, you can disagree. It's America. This is my opinion. My show. Okay? Don't like it? Well, in America. But my point in putting it out here 2 years ago, I knew it would be controversial. I didn't care. What I wanted was that the American people needed to know the truth. We needed to know that we were on a train that was headed toward a cliff, and that the majority of us would never be able to piece Humpty Dumpty together again. This is all the king's horses, all the king's men. Nobody could put Humpty together again. And I was starting to feel like that. So I wrote the book. I poured into this 40 years of knowledge, information, resources, everything, how you could get out of this. Let me just start by saying, as we sit here today in this studio today, I'm going to unfold over the next month. It's July. It's slow time of the year, but you'll be able to see all this information again and again and again, and then you can watch it play out. You cannot be paranoid or scared when you see these things come to pass, because you will understand that this was all a part of a system and that you did not blow yourself up. It did. And it's been blowing us up for some time. Actually, the blow-up started after the Great Depression. And then we went into war so we would produce enough to come out of this has such a long, long story. And it does not have a good ending. And therefore, and I'm sharing with all of you that are watching my show, my reputation as the money lady is that if you can't bring it to me straight, if you cannot bring it to me documented, if you want to get all into an emotional diatribe about, well, this isn't fair. Well, I'm not here to talk about fairness. You should know, if you've gotten to my age, you need to know that this is not a fair situation. And that when people came over here, whether they came over here from Europe where they had nothing, I mean nothing, came over here with nothing, whether they were fleeing countries, whether they were brought over here as slaves, as was the case for my people, 450 years. However we got over here with certain expectations other than the slaves. Slaves did not have expectations because they were bought property. But for those of you that came over here, paid your fare to get on a ship, and hope somebody over here would vouch for you when you got to Ellis Island. For those of you that came over here, you had an expectation. And don't deny it, don't deny it, don't deny it. If you came from Ireland, you already know the English treated you like crap. Okay? You know that. They slaved you up too. But when you came to America, it was a hope. And the hope was that maybe we can do better. Maybe we can be a part of the American experience. Maybe, just maybe, we could worship our God, whatever he or she was, without being beaten down and tormented and harassed. Maybe our children could even go to school rather than having to work fields for nothing. This was the hope. Maybe we could even have elections where we could vote in people that represented our heart. Because a true politician is a manifestation of the heart of the people that voted him into office or her into office. It's a heart thing. But this is a hope. And I'm giving you this background because I'm going to be sharing with you a lot based upon 40 years of doing this. As I told a woman the other day, you can't possibly believe I got paid enough money for the sorrow and the heartfelt disappointment I have toward our country, because this country failed a lot of people. And for you older people, especially, you went to not one world war, but two out of Europe. Can't seem to get rid of Europe. Can't seem to get rid of Germany. Here we are. And to see at your age, you have poor health care. Your teeth are in bad condition. You're struggling to pay your bills. I mean, 80 and struggling to pay your bills and struggling to have enough food to eat. And your children are coming back home because they cannot afford their rent. This is not the story that you were expecting. My dad, my stepfather, is 96 years old, a proud man. And we talk openly about everything, because when you get that age, you can be open. And he said, Michelle, yes, sir, because I do refer to him. I'm from that generation where older people, you refer to them as sir and ma'am and no, sir, and yes, ma'am. Why? Because they earned it. You haven't lived long enough to say anything. But I said, sir, did you think you would live to 96, see the nation's capital almost overthrown, see us at war again as if Vietnam wasn't enough and Desert Storm? Now we're fighting Persia, and that's never had a good end. I said, what do you think about this? And he told me very honestly, I'm ready to go. I'm like, That was not the answer. That was not what I was expecting you to say. He said, there's nothing to live for. We can't pass a legacy on because we can scarcely live it out. He said, everybody I know is either sick or gone. And he said, and look at me. You know, he said, I'm old. I don't have a bunch of money because my wife had Alzheimer's. We didn't even know what Alzheimer's was. And taking care of her and taking care of myself and not having enough food, affordable. And he said, then I look at you. And you worked so hard to make sure that we had a nice nest egg. I said, but I have to because you don't want to be broke in America. No, you don't. I said, but I never thought we'd hemorrhage through all of that money because of health care. But I'm here to tell all of you that are listening, and you better listen good because I talked to you about long-term care 3 or 4 years ago. You said, what's her issue with long-term care? Because you're going to need it. Well, let me tell you something. True situation. Mine. $12,500 a month for people that have memory issues, known as Alzheimer, also known as dementia. $12,500 cash. They don't finance a credit card. You pay cash for 24-hour care. Well, they'll stay at home. Oh, no, they won't. Oh, no, they won't. You are not going to keep your mother and dad in a home situation with cognitive issues. You're not going to do it because you can't. So the issue is, but it's not affordable. Well, right question, is it? No. But what are your alternatives? Well, your alternatives is that you're going to keep working every day to pay that bill at the long-term care facility. Why? Because you didn't believe in the insurance. Because, oh, it's not going to happen to me. And we've heard it over and over and over again, and I'm not talking about it anymore. I'm not. You can go to some of my old episodes on YouTube. The Power of Money, Michelle Graves, long-term care. You'll hear me with Randy Gallis, top professional in his field, giving you the data. But it doesn't ring real until it happens to you. So since nothing makes sense until it happens to you, then that's why I wrote this book. I launched this entire process, and when did I do what date is it? July 25th of last year. A 2-year process and launched. And it was life-changing for most of the people. Whew, testimonies, people crying. A year ago, 2 years ago, I had said in a public forum that Americans were in for a very painful and rude awakening, that we no longer held the status of favored child globally. We didn't. China did. And they still do. And we set them up to be the favorite child. Well, I didn't do it to them. Well, the people that control this system did it to make lots of money. And they did it at your expense. And they tried to do it at the expense of the Chinese, but it didn't work. Because now they are the favorite child. And they're running everything. And it's not a really good politic. I live there. I'm just telling you. Those people are different. Okay? I'm not kidding you. They're different. And they're used to poverty. and they know what it's like when they don't have enough food at the end of the day. They don't have government programs doing all that. Now, they do have some things that I wish we had, which is because they're a communist system. Communist. The government runs everything. The government makes decisions about your life. Okay? The government decides and determines what gets built and what doesn't. So even if a subway system over here, we desperately need efficiencies in transportation, and they have it. If you think I'm kidding, go to internet and type in China's transportation. And they will show you cities, Shenzhen, Shanghai, cities where the government made a decision to do subway travel and transportation. Why? To help the people. We can't do it over here because there's no money in it. So here you go. They're not motivated by money. We are only, as a nation, motivated by money. And look at the outcome. So your great-great-great-grandparents came over here on a boat, didn't know much, didn't have much, but have a heartfelt belief. And they really didn't know. They had to find this out the hard way. That the capitalist class in Europe was more than happy to put your grandparents on a boat, get rid of them. Send them over here. Let them try to figure it out over here. Or as they did in England, when you start talking about the English, I said, you clearly could not know your history and say this. The English hierarchy, monarchy, has never cared about anybody broke. They're a nation of broke people working in coal mines, children working like dogs, young girls prostituting. You want to know where all that came from? No. Jeffrey Epstein was not the first. Not by a long shot. So don't go into that morality thing with me. Read your history. Come to your own conclusions. Save yourself. Because once you see it and once you know it, you will begin to do things a little differently, which is why I wrote the book. So let's talk about where we go, because it's more than just information. It is direction. I put this out so that you would come to earth. The greatest tool you can have today is awareness. Wake up. Yeah. Wake up. Figure it out. Get it done. Stop making excuses. You're not the first. Thanks to the transparency of internet, we can see everything, including a ton of stuff we don't want to see. Why? Because we're transparent. We want people to know. No, I need you to know. Because the only thing that matters is you and your family. And so many of us, we don't want to talk about families because that's trauma for real. With your kids and everything else. Baby boomers, shame on you. I'm a baby boomer. We did not have boundaries. And then tried to perpetuate that onto our children. Oh, do your own thing. It's your thing. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. A society has rules, regulations, laws, and boundaries. And when they are violated, which is what we're doing today, because everybody has an opinion about everything and they don't care what it does to you. So I'm saying to you, awareness. It starts with awareness. Knowing what the heck happened. How'd you work all these years at a job? And when you are at the end of the job and ready to retire, you don't have any money. Where did the money go? Well, now we're talking about capitalism, because the true goal of capitalism, and I've heard it said to me, I'm a capitalist. That's what we're going to be. We're going to get rich. We're going to make a lot of money. Ask the typical senior what they're looking at when it's time to retire. Forget Social Security. It's not going to be around much longer anyway. Don't believe me? Read the data, 2032. Medicare, don't get sick, please. Okay? And if you do get sick, go to some herbalists. Go to some people who've been helping sick people for a long time. And they not only get better, but they live good lives. I'm just telling you, this is going back to when things were not so convenient and so crisp. I'm going to get rich. No, you're not, and no, you didn't. Now, I'm not prepared to say that there were not others who have gotten wealthy. But let me tell you something about the capricious character of capitalism, which is profit at any cost. At any cost, I don't care. Shoot your mother. Kick your dog. We're going to make this money. We're going to get this. Well, what you going to get when you get cancer and your net worth is $60 million? Or as one of our very, very wealthy tech people said, I'd give anything to be able to live longer, and died. So his heirs got all of his money through his estate and all the fancy pants, but his quality of life was non-existent. And that's the awareness. That is the awareness that money does not solve a bad situation. Trust me. People are leaving here in large numbers right now with no solution. The doctor says nothing else we can do. Pancreas, gone. What? Nothing? I'm going to go to China. There's nothing we can do. Prepare to leave. Now, you talk about humbling. When a doctor tells a rich man or a rich woman, there's nothing we can do. Prepare to leave here. Talk about a reality check. That's why I'm saying self-awareness. Know your limitations. Value and put a price on the things that are important to you. For me, I will tell you, in my younger years, I was obsessed with money. Oh, money, money, money. And then I realized money does not solve your problem, because your real problem is that you don't live long enough to spend everything you've earned and have something that you can enjoy. Is that like bing, 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 bing? Did the lights go off? Is a person really foolish if they spend all their money and have nothing? If at the end of the day, you don't have anything anyway? Think about it. Now, I am not, and please don't get it twisted, I am not saying to you to go out here and just be stupid. But I am saying to you, get an awareness of the things that are important and the things that are not for you. You are not the evening news. You are not all these ridiculous things that we see on internet, and we think that's us. That's not us. That's a robot. That's AI. Who knows what it is? But at the point you develop an affection for the false and reject the truth, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make the cut. For real. you're not going to make the cut. What is the future today for people that don't make the cut? Let me paint you a story, because it's important for the area of self-awareness. First thing, you need to know how the economy really works and how capitalism is totally dependent upon you, the consumer, to spend money you don't have. That's called debt, because they put you into a marketing model that says, I want to be rich. I want this. I want a Hermes. I want an LV. I want this. I want that. The truth of the matter is, you don't make enough money to have any of that. But it's a good sale, because if they can get you to spend money that you don't have, go into debt, 34.99% interest rate, that's what it is right now. You didn't know. You'll never be out of debt. You'll always be groveling until you're sick, and then you can't work. And then you find out that they have agents called collection agents that will harass and hound you until you're nuts over those shoes you just could not pass by, that car you just had to have. All this junk perpetuated by a marketing vehicle attached to an economic system called capitalism. Am I anti-capitalist? I am against anything that destroys people's lives. I'm against veterans having to get a VA loan to buy a house. And the government collects interest. Okay? Can you charge the government interest for your life? Because when you sign that paperwork, veteran, you have conscripted yourself to the government. They can ship you anywhere, anytime. And you can die and get very little. But the insanity of them wanting to profit, this is a sickness. They want to charge you interest on a VA loan that the government guarantees will never go bad, but you're going to pay interest. Okay? These are things we don't think about. We don't consider. We just say, oh, that's how it's worked. No, look at what's behind it. Look at what drives it. Get an awareness and an understanding of what is really going on. Our veterans are in horrible condition. Mentally, try killing people and see if it doesn't affect your mental state. Try getting messed up. You get hurt. For what? And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm going to say this. It's not in my book. Maybe I need to add another chapter. I'm thinking of a couple of chapters. What happens when you get involved with a country like Persia that's been around for 5,000 years and developed the game of chess? I didn't say checkers. I said chess, which is very strategic. So strategic that those buzzards haven't lost the war. They always come in at the end, play you some little chess moves. And you're sitting up there saying, I don't know why I don't feel right about this. You don't feel right because you're being played. It's chess. Put on the mind of a chess player. I, by the way, learned chess in junior high school at Walnut Hills High School in Cincinnati. They had a chess team. I was the only black person, female, on the team. And man, did I learn a lot. I lost a lot too. These guys were sharp and they whooped my butt. And I learned, don't be moved by the move. You got to look further down. You got to see what's coming down the path. You don't get excited. You don't ever say anything. You don't tell people your moves. You don't tell them anything. You just move when you move. And it's like, boom, oh my God, Checkmate, checkmate. Exactly. Serious. So, when you understand that this country is in so much debt that I can't even talk about it without gagging, because the only way we can pay that debt is creating opportunities for people to be in debt so that their money can be used to pay off the debt we owe. Yeah. I didn't say they owed, I said the American people. The full faith and credit, that's right, it's right there. The full faith and credit of not the 10%, but the 90%, who really don't have any money. They just have work power. Now I can go to work every day, chugga, chugga, chugga. Or credit, because they're not going to make enough money to pay their debts. So they have to do credit. Okay? That's just, and incidentally, the Federal Reserve of the United States. You can start with the Federal Reserve. You can start with the Federal Reserve of Boston, who tracks consumer spending, because they know exactly how much money you don't have. It's right there. They can't, this is not sustainable. Why do you think they say that? Because they know what you're spending. Why do they know what you're spending? Because credit cards are tied into banking. Who owns the banks? Come on, please, deductive reasoning. So you see, Matt, you're making me feel bad. No, I'm not. I'm giving you a dose of reality so that you can begin to order your steps with intentionality, which is I'm intentional about saving my family. I am intentional about doing better. How is my view different from this current administration? And I tell people all the time, your view is the view of a worker bee. I got to get through the day, I got to get through the day. Not a capitalist who's running and moving all the parts. He's not the man in the green room in The Wizard of Oz. These guys are running around out here with islands, boats, nations, everything. Yeah, Ben. So where do you come in? Well, my whole initiative, let me put on my glasses, because believe it or not, these are all my notes. I'm going to show you how long. This is all my notes that I've accumulated for that book. And why we do not understand why we are going through what we're going through right now. Because until you get out of your head the notion of being wealthy, I mean, you can be born into wealth. That's a part of the 10%'s agenda, or the 1%. The 1% are perpetually wealthy. Their children are never going to have to worry about going hungry. Their grandchildren are going to go to the most prestigious Ivy League schools, England, otherwise, to get their education so that they can be a part of that monopoly. And you and I and others are still running around thinking that you have a hope and a prayer. This is your hope and your prayer. Your hope and your prayer is that you live below your means, that you save and save and save, that you go back to a time where people ate off the land, grew their own cows, chickens, etc., ate them, and were able to do some things, not all things, some things. And knowing and understanding that unless you do things differently, you are going to be a loser. I'm not kidding you. Look at old people. These people went to war for us. They did. And people can say what they want, but if we had not won World War II, Adolf Hitler, we would have been speaking German because they were formidable. They were formidable. Still are, by the way. Don't get it twisted. They still are. The Russians know it. Everybody else does too. What happens when you're running around in a forest for hundreds of years eating pigs? So, what do you do? And one of the things I will say to you is this whole thing today was about what are you going to do, and understanding that financial survival is strategic. Yeah, you make your moves based upon what's happening in your family and your family's life. And I'm sorry if you don't have a good family, birth family, you can create other families. You have other things that are going on that you can take advantage of. And I do encourage you to do that. I really do. I encourage you to take advantage and work together. Do cookouts, share food, do things differently. Love. Whatever happened to, yeah, Billy's a drug addict, but we still love him? Whatever happened to that? Okay? Whatever happened with not being embarrassed that all your kids did not come out right? You know what I mean? They didn't come out right. And you know it. And you know why. But rather than look at the family as a strategic unit for survival, we become adversarial. Now, I really have no issue with you being adversarial to all the retail stores taking your money or the utility companies taking your money. Okay? I don't have an issue with that. But I do have an issue where you will put them over your own family. Now, that's a problem because it's your family that's going to be in place to love you and take care of you. And you can say, they don't love me. They don't take care of me. Well, maybe you didn't train them to. Maybe you were so busy trying to live out the American dream. And let me paint I'm running out of time, but let me paint the story of the American dream and why you don't have any family. Well, you come out of college, you got a big-time job, and it requires you working long hours, executive. Wife is at home taking care of the kids. Big house, $1 million mortgage. $1 million is not a lot on East and West Coast in major markets. $1 million home is not a big deal. Okay, they're selling $1 trillion homes now. How big of a house do you want when you're not going to ever be there because you're going to be working like a dog paying the mortgage and hoping you can keep her happy and not something crazy? This is the American dream. You can't put in time with your children. They learn about you from television, radio. I'm telling you what I know. And then you want to know why they don't care nothing about you. Well, I'm providing. No, you're not. That's your ego. That's your ego. That's what's providing. So I say all of this to say awareness. Remember, I started off the show with awareness. Work it out. Look at your situation openly. By the way, you're forgiven. The reason you're forgiven is because you didn't know. You actually believed in this stuff. And you are officially on your way to becoming a loser. Yep, because when the kids are bigger, she's going to divorce you. Or you're going to divorce her. Why? Because that's a part of the marketing plan in America. Produce the children who will grow up and become indebted. You're bankrupt because you can't carry the debt. And so here we are. Here we are. Those are the cold, hard facts. I don't care how many of your friends you got. Look at their lifestyle and make some decisions, which is, that's not what I'm doing. We may live in a smaller home, but we're going to live with some love around here, with some peace in this house, and some joy. Divorce is a roadway to devastation financially. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, Mr. Bezos, others, but that is not America. And this is what I keep trying to tell people. Stop pointing to those people as examples when the truth is they're exceptions to the rule. You don't think so? Come on. Do the research yourself and see that most of these super wealthy men did not just fall into the money. They had daddies, they had granddaddies, they had trusts, they had some edge up. They really did. Bill Gates was not broke. His daddy wasn't broke. His ex-wife, Melissa, middle class but not broke. And she's definitely not broke now. And you can go on and on and on. But where is in that chronicle, where is your story? Where is your story? How does all this affect you? Listen, when I did a show on tariffs, and I said they were coming, because the research I had done said we needed tariffs to help us get out of this hole we were in. And who pays for tariffs? I said it, we do, the American people, because we are the consumers. We buy this stuff. Businesses may pay the tariff, but they're going to pass it on to you because you keep this country going. People are like, we pay the... Look, you carry this country through your purchasing decisions, through your lifestyle decisions, and through your self decisions, which is, well, is it Botox today? Or is it a trip to Rome tomorrow? No, I can't afford it, but I'm going to do it because that's the American way. Folks, that is not the American way. That is not the truth. And do not try to make a lie the truth. Deal with the truth, reorder your life, and keep it moving. Like I said, that's why I wrote this book, so that you could read it and lay out strategies for your own household, including the very first one, which is, what is your mindset? Where do you feel you fit in? The $1 million football players, the $1 million basketball players, a billion, I'm not mad at them. They work them like animals because it's a sport, like Roman sport, like lions and tigers and bears. They work them like dogs. And then when he gets sick or he has a bad season, out. So whatever money he can get, he need to run with. I was looking at some of the football greats and where they are today. And believe me, they deserve every penny they extracted. They don't have any equity in these teams. They're just body parts running up and down the field, body parts. Oh, look at him, look at him. No, look at you. What are you doing? How much did you have to pay to see that game? And why are you so vested in another person's outcome? Do you have that kind of money? Do you have skills that they'll pay for that and then they get tired of you and get rid of you? That sounds a lot like the workforce in America. You get old and they get rid of you. You get sick and they get rid of you. You can't function because you got mental challenges and trauma, and they get rid of you because nobody needs that in a workplace. You got to figure it out, okay? You got to roll with it. So the questions that need to be asked, you don't ask. And because we don't ask, so what? You don't like it here, leave. And I say this to people all the time. Stop telling people to leave this country. Okay? That's why we're in a mess now. Well, we don't need immigrants, so where do you think you came from? Who was your daddy's daddy? Where were you educated? I can say that as a Kentuckian, because I know Kentucky people were born with nothing, and they very rarely have anything when they die, except some liquor maybe, that they didn't steal because half those recipes were stolen. Okay? So why am I saying all this? Because the goal of today's session, which is why am I even listening to this woman? Well, you listen to the voice of reason if you're wise, and you listen to the voice of experience if you want to do better. But if none of that's important to you in this time in history that we are in, then you will find yourself out here. You didn't make the cut. You got sick. You didn't get better. Your family mourned at your funeral. And next, it feels like something out of sci-fi. It really does. And people say, oh, AI, oh my God. I'm like, look, you've been living with AI for a long time. You've been living with people, not robots, but humans, that tell you how you live your life. And what happens if you're bad. Okay? Oh, we got something for you, for real, that'll put you out for a long time. Now, am I a cynic? Don't be ridiculous. I'm a researcher. I look at data as it emerges and as it occurs. I'm fanatical about that, by the way. I am. I'm going to always go back to the historical standards. I'm going to always look at nations rise and fall. I'm going to always evaluate where I fit in, not just as an economist and as a banker, but where I sit in as a normal human being who loves the Lord. Let's just get it clean. Let's get it clear. I do, because I really do believe, whether you do or not, that's on you, but I really do believe that there is going to be a resolution. I just do. The universe is not chaotic. Scientists are discovering. It's very, very systematic. Stuff doesn't just happen. We're not baking right now. It's hot as heck where I live. And in other parts of the country, it's not even habitable. You better read the message and put it together. And look again at what do I need to know. Now, in my next session, we're going to be talking about your plan, your strategic plan for survival. How did you get to this point and where we're going? And may I say something on a predictive basis? I have to, because we're talking about a scientific term called convergence. Convergence is when everything comes together. You know, there was a phenomenal award-winning movie about everything and everything. And it was just crazy. Everything's going on, everything. And I said, that's how I feel. You turn on the news, you're like, what's next? Everything. But you need to look at what is not everything. And the things that are not is where you need to be focusing your attention, your energy, etc. And closing remarks to everyone within the sound of my voice. The only people that are going to love you at the end of the day is your family. Now, it's a funny thing because the family is in much disarray right now. People are fighting, disputing, everything. all over inconsequential things. Inconsequential because unless you can do something to change it, leave it alone. It is what it is. DNA is brutal. And it's not fair, but it is exactly what it is. So in the concluding moments of this show's broadcast, because I'm going on into the next one, where I'm talking about what is your plan. What is your plan? Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, Plan D. What are you doing? And are you going to make it happen, or are you going to let it happen to you? I'm Michelle Graves, the Money Lady. Thank you for being a part of part one of Thriving Through the Storm. I'm going to do 4 parts for your pleasure. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye.